Welcome to this week's Total Pickleball vlog. My name is Mark, and I'm here today to discuss in specific and general terms what makes a paddle go. I want to talk about specific traits of paddles, but then also talk about where the sources of power and control are derived from. We'll begin with the Selkirk Air Invicta. This is a really great high performance paddle, pushing the envelope for technology and advancement of paddles. This is a light year away from the old woods I used to play with back in the mid 80s. This paddle is going to give you some length-based power at about 16.5 inches. It also weighs about 8 ounces, and I would say anything over about 7.7 or 7.8 ounces, you're able to derive some power and stability out of the weight of the paddle in your hand. Besides that, you have a 4-layer surface here, which is very spin-friendly, and sandwiched in between it is a polypropylene core. This is a very lively, predictable paddle. Spin is very easily accessed on it. And one of the things that really distinguishes this paddle from a lot of others on the market at this point is the little air cutout that you see here. I've asserted over the years, because you don't get any airflow through the paddle face the way you do through a tennis racket, in a static position, the paddle kind of gets blown around a little bit, as does the ball. I can't do anything about the ball getting bullied around in the wind. However, when I have a paddle that at least weighs about 7.8 to 8.0, it seems to steady everything out, makes everything a lot more easy to contact the paddle to the ball. This little cutout here is just a great way to let that paddle sit still and also accelerate it easier. And I would also say this allows the player to work with more weight. You will be able to accelerate it easier because there simply isn't that much drag from 0 to whatever paddle head speed that you can generate. So this overall is just a dynamite paddle. If you're looking for something very lively and spin friendly, this is a great way to go. Next up, we're going to talk about a couple of my favorite paddles. One that I'm seriously considering changing to for my Echelon, and this is the Carbon 3X Power Series. This one happens to be the 14 millimeter as opposed to the 16. The slightly thinner core, also made of polypropylene, is going to give you a little more energy return compared to a 16 millimeter core that's going to kind of capture the ball and let it dwell on the paddle face for a little bit longer. But again, this one is giving you that 16.5 inch overall length, getting some leverage, length-based power. You're also at about 8 ounces getting some weight-based power as well. The Toray Carbon surface, extremely spin-friendly, making this a very predictable, obedient, and a little lower powered paddle. Compared to the Tyson McGuffin, this thing seems to be more of a scalpel, where the Tyson McGuffin paddle definitely reacts and propels the ball off the paddle with a lot less effort. And from the Carbon 3X, I'm gonna jump over to the 2X Power Series, which basically the materials are all the same. The configuration is a little bit different. Being that this paddle is about 15 3/4 inches long, you're deriving probably a little bit more control and maneuverability out of this paddle. It also is probably going to afford you a pretty broad sweet spot because it is a little broader across the 3 to 9. This paddle also weighs about 8 ounces, has the same Toray raw carbon fiber surface for just lethal amounts of spin, easy production, shape my shots with lots of spin. This one works great. And it also has a 5.25 inch handle, as does the longer one. So for somebody who's got the two-handed approach, or somebody that simply has a one-hander and prefers a longer handle, this is definitely a dynamite paddle. Lastly, I wanted to talk about the Rockne paddle. This one is brand new. I usually don't talk so much about prices, but this one is just an amazing value at about $89. And this paddle comes in multiple colorways for the surface here. Very spin friendly. I've never seen anything that claims to be a textured fiberglass surface to be so gritty and spin friendly. This actually is one of the most spin friendly paddles I've ever played with. It is just another paddle that I just feel like my percentages are great, and I cannot blame the paddle on anything. It's just going to be my fault if the paddle's not working. But overall, this is another elongated paddle. You're at about 16.5. You got the 5.25 handle length. This is a 13 millimeter core for this one, so it's definitely going to have the ball jump off there. So if you're looking for easy power and a very solid paddle at an incredible price, look no further than this Rockne Curve Classic. Just a great addition to the new lineup of paddles. And lastly, I just wanted to talk about the generalities of what makes a paddle go. I know I was talking about weight-based power, length-based power. I brought these two carbon paddles out here for another reason, and that is just to kind of explain, one of the more popular shots in pickleball these days seems to be the roll the ball, particularly off the backhand side. So instead of chipping it like a tennis shot, you're actually producing topspin more like a backhand for table tennis or ping pong. And what I realize is The thinner paddle, the paddle that's not quite as wide, is actually less stable in that way, and therefore it makes it a little easier for me to roll up over the ball and get topspin, particularly off the backhand side. The wider paddle, it is a little more resistant, a little more stable in that way. So it seems to be, not that you can't roll the ball and produce lots of spin off the backhand side, but it seems to be a little more of a deliberate effort to peel off that shot effectively and consistently. But those are the two directions. I call this kind of a classic paddle shape. It's a little shorter and wider, and then a lot of people refer to this as an elongated shape. So you're getting a little more stability out of the length and you're sacrificing the width across here. But again, that kind of makes it a little easier to roll the ball and produce topspin off of either wing. This one here, still you can do it, but you definitely notice that you're getting a little more stability, so it's kind of harder to get up over the top of the ball. And that's all we have for you this week for the vlog of Total Pickleball. If you want to know anything about these paddles or anything else pickleball related, please visit totalpickleball.com.